Earlier this year, I went on a hike. That's right. I went to Horsetooth Rock, the one with the three teeth looking things at the top. You can see it from campus. I didn't really expect much on this hike. I just wanted to go get some exercise, enjoy some views, and get away from civilization for a bit. On my way down from Horsetooth Rock, I noticed an old man making his way down a little ways ahead of me. And I thought to myself, instead of passing him, maybe I should try and just talk to him. So that's what I did. Yeah, I got to know Will pretty well that day. I learned that he was born in Butte, Montana in 1942, making him a 74-year-old man on a hike. I learned about his life, his career, his youth. We talked about politics, all sorts of stuff. As we made our way down the hike, I started to think to myself that this old man, Will, he was a pretty good source of knowledge and wisdom in my life, so we decided to keep in touch. Fortunately for me, that worked out pretty well because later on I was able to interview him about popular culture. The interview looked a little something like this. How's it going there, Will? This is your friend Graham. Just wondering if you could answer a few questions for me.
Okay, Graham, yeah. I'll help you out here.
Wonderful. First question. Uh, how old were you in the 1960s? Slash, what do you remember about this decade?
Oh, yeah. The 60s. Around this time, I was a college aged boy, just like you. I lived in Alaska with my family. I studied at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and Alaska was in a time of oil industry expansion, and that was a really interesting change to watch for me.
So, what all did you guys do for fun around this time?
Yeah, sure. For me personally, I enjoyed hiking just like you, um, and I hiked all sorts of mountains in Alaska. They're really close to where I lived, so it was really easy to stay outdoors. Other than that, my friends and I, we enjoyed driving movie theaters, your bars, your clubs.
Sounds not too much different from my lifestyle. Could you tell me about your experience with Vietnam? Did you get drafted, or what's the deal there?
Yeah, Graham, that's a pretty interesting deal there for sure. When Vietnam got started, I had just finished climbing Mount Popocatépetl, which is one of the tallest mountains in Mexico. And so I got a notice to go down to Arizona and enlist into the army. And so I went down to Arizona, and I remember I didn't want anything to do with Vietnam. I didn't want to fight. So I told the nurse who was giving us a physical, I told her that my vision was so poor that I would likely shoot the wrong people if I were to go to Vietnam. I would likely shoot people of the United States, soldiers of the United States. And so that was enough for her just by doing that to deny me. And so I didn't have to fight.
Now I know what you're thinking. How could it be so easy to get out of a draft notice like that? Oh, hey, nurse, I just want you to know that my vision, it's messed up and I might shoot the wrong guy. Oh, well, okay, you can go home then. You don't have to fight in Vietnam. Based on how he explained it to me, it sounded like it was that easy for him. Wild stories aside, he had some pretty good insights to share. Now, Will's a pretty smart guy. He studies about adaptation and developmental pathogens of organisms exposed to natural toxins such as waterborne heavy materials and semi-metals. In plain English, that means that he studies toxins in the environment and how we can minimize their effects. So, he's a 74-year-old man. He lives at home. He's not a student. So I asked him, how do you study this? Where do you get your knowledge? Turns out that Will is a lot more tech savvy than I thought. The typical stereotype of the older generation is that they go to the library, they read newspapers. That's their way of gathering information, whether it's social information or knowledge based information. They don't know how to use the internet. Will definitely broke this stereotype. He told me about how he uses online databases and how he communicates with people via the web to further his studies and get his ideas out into the world. On top of that, he's on Facebook and Twitter. Pretty neat. So I asked him about technology and the exchange of information and the changes that he has seen since he was in college. He seemed really passionate about the idea of fake news, and he said that journalism was a lot more reliable back in his day. And that kind of made me think, is fake news really a new issue? And what defines fake news? I was really happy to interview Will. He showed me how to get out of a draft. He taught me about different toxins in the environment. And most importantly, he showed me that it's important not to stereotype older adults when it comes to technology and their usage of it. Moral of the story, if you ever find yourself on a hike, on a walk, on a bus, wherever it is, and you see someone that interests you, just try and go talk to them. Why not?